Now we're going to do a quick overview of Christianity in China. Early introduction, the first form of Christianity actually was in the form of Nestorianism. Now, Nestorianism was a form of Christianity that was actually condemned at the Council of Chalcedon in 451, but Nestorianism continued to flourish and actually found its home in 635 CE. It was actually Bish Alapun from Syria which brought it. The reason why we know this, there was a monument in 781 that was erected that actually details the account of this. And as we can see, 638, the first Christian church and monastery was built. During the reign of Emperor Taizong, there was much tolerance in regards to religion. This opened the door for things such as Nestorianism or Christianity to be able to spread. But quickly, Nestorianism was suppressed by opposition and persecution from two places. Empress Wu, one of the actual concubines of Emperor Taizong, who went to go on to kind of take control, and also from the Arab conquest in Western Asia. Shortly after this, Nestorianism advanced once more during the reign of Emperor Xuanzong. More persecution came at the hands of Emperor Wenzong, though, in 845. Then the Tang dynasty, which was in power since the early 7th century, was actually overthrown in 907, which caused the Christian churches to collapse. And it wasn't until the 13th century that Christianity found its way back into China, once again via Nestorianism. Kublai Khan, whose mother actually was a Nestorian, he had leniency with other religions, once again allowing for Nestorian Christianity to rise yet again. Also at this time, Catholicism entered into the picture in around 1294 through the works of John Montecorvino. He eventually built a church in 1299, and his ministry continued till around 1347. In the year of 1368, fast forward just a little bit, the Yuan dynasty was actually overthrown, and a year later in 1369, all Christians were cast out of China. And it's interesting, with the fall of another dynasty, as we saw before, came the fall of Christianity, in this case with Nestorians as well as the Catholics. Towards the end of the Ming Dynasty in the 16th century, Alessandro Valignano set up a base training missionaries in Macau. He was already briefly spoken about by one of our previous presenters. And through those works, two Jesuit missionaries by the names of Matteo Ricci and Michel Ruggieri began to study the Chinese language and culture in 1583. I'm not going to talk much about Matteo Ricci. He's once again already been discussed in length by one of our other presenters. Catholicism's influence continued to expand actually during the Qing Dynasty. And then it was actually in 1692 when Emperor Kangxi issued an edict which stated, the Europeans are very quiet. They do not excite any disturbances in the provinces. They do not harm anyone. They commit no crimes, and their doctrine has nothing in common with that of the false sects in the empire. We decide, therefore, that all temples dedicated to the Lord of heaven, in whatever place they may be found, ought to be preserved, and that it may be permitted to all who worship this God to enter these temples according to the ancient customs by the Christians. But there seem to be controversies in China, many controversies to be sure. Debate on the extent to which the Chinese should participate in Confucian rites and ancestral worship was known as the rites controversy. It stirred up a lot of trouble. Some Jesuits, as an example, Ricci, supported such accommodations to an extent. However, there seemed to be this inner conflict between missionaries. There were rival missionaries who saw this compromise as completely unacceptable. Further conflict arose in the term for the use of God. What was the name that should have been used? And there was extreme conflict in regards to that. Further conflict arose between Pope Clement X and Emperor Kangxi, and he issued another edict in 1706 that all remaining missionaries had to be in line with the practices of Matteo Ricci. Pope Clement XI ruled against the compromise that the Jesuits were practicing in 1715, and then it was actually finalized by Pope Benedict XIV in 1742. It has to be noted in 1724 there was an edict by Yang Zheng that actually made it illegal for Christianity or the advancement of Christianity, and this had severe implications in regards to Christianity in China. And persecution ensued, and for the next 120 years, Christianity was deemed as a heterodox cult, as already been explained. The treaty in the 19th century going forward, many of these treaties had a tremendous impact for Christianity in China after the First Opium War led to the removal of this edict in 1724 that I mentioned before, which prohibited against belief as Christians. More treaties from 1858 to 1860 gave missionaries a way to travel actually into the heartland of China, and it was at this time that Protestant missionaries also saw a presence. In the 1900s, actually in 1900, there was what was known as the Boxer Uprising, which saw thousands of Christians and many missionaries killed. But it wasn't always a dark note. We do know and we see the expansion of the Protestant missionaries from the year 1900 to 1925, fourfold from 2000 to 8,000.